Hey everyone, I wanted to do a walkthrough of the Alpha Ghost 2 professional stringing machine. Picked this machine up about 2 to 3 weeks ago. I've strung a couple dozen rackets on it so far. I'm really happy with the performance. While I was doing research before upgrading to this machine, I noticed wasn't a whole lot on YouTube in terms of walkthroughs or reviews of this particular machine. Someone has posted a video of the assembly, which you might find helpful. And the retailer of the machine, New Tech Tennis, I couldn't find anything really on their website in terms of a video or sort of any specific details on the machine outside of the technical specs that they provide. So hope you find this useful in terms of your research if you are either a professional stringer or if you string for yourself and your friends and family. This might be one of the many options out there for you. A little bit about the machine. I'll get into all the technical specs, as many as I can, but it is has a 6-point mounting system, electronic constant pull. It retails for $3,000, which puts it sort of in the middle range, I think, of professional stringing machines. You have some in the Gamma line and Turna that are in, I think, the upper thousands and maybe $2,000, and then you get into the $5,000 threshold where you start looking at some of the Wilson Bayardo, the Babolat Racket Station, and so on. This, I think, is what machine fit good for my business. I string for a couple local clubs, schools, private clientele. It is just me using this machine, so I don't have to worry about adjusting the height frequently. Sort of set it once, and that's it for the long haul. So without further ado, we'll get going on with the walkthrough. So a little bit about what to expect when you order the Alpha Ghost 2. The unit will be shipped UPS in 3 boxes that you see here. Two of these square boxes, one of them is for the turntable. The second square-shaped box is for the tension head unit, and then everything else goes in the rectangular-shaped box. That's the pedestal, the mount. You don't need any special tools for assembly. The boxes in the boxes comes a couple of metric Allen wrenches, and that's really all you need to assemble the unit. The Alpha Ghost 2 ships. They ship at UPS from Austin, Texas. I think it's UPS ground, so it does take about I'd say about a week to arrive. No more than 5 business days, I guess, depending on where you are in the States. The boxes are not all that heavy, but I do recommend that you either have a dolly or have some help bringing the boxes inside. I do have to compliment the manufacturer for the packaging. The turntable and the tension head are mounted or basically bolted onto 2 pieces of plywood and styrofoam lined boxes. Everything arrived perfectly undamaged, so kudos to the manufacturing company for their packaging. Shipping pretty much across the country runs about $200. You have to add that onto factor that into the price of the stringing machine. This is the view of the machine that, as a stringer, you will probably become most used to. So you see that we have the turntable on the left, the tension head on the right, mounted on a table assembly, and then underneath the pedestal, which has a manual up-down adjustment. Again, tools come, everything that you need to assemble. I think it took me about, I don't know, about 40, 45 minutes to assemble. I think if you have the, if you have the technical wherewithal to string rackets, then you will have no problem figuring out. The instructions are very straightforward to assemble. You do have to route a couple of wires through the pedestal, which I'll cover here in a second. But other than that, the assembly is very, very straightforward, and I think within 45 minutes you'll be up and running. The $3,000 you pay for the stringing machine does come with a set of tools. So you get a small carrying case, and you have your standard cutters, your angled pliers, a starting clamp, two awls, setting off awl, which I actually kind of like. I normally use the Kimoni setting off awl, but I really like this one because of the thick handle on it. So that was very nice to have. There's an Allen that with the red handle, T-Allen, that I believe is to adjust the base clamps, and I'll show you where that adjustment is made later. There's also a Phillips screwdriver that is used for if you need to calibrate the machine. There's a potentiometer adjustment, and then there's a string puller, which I've never used in my life. I probably never will. It will probably be in that wrapper for the duration that I own the machine. You can use that tool to pull strings, mains or crosses. Say if you have shared holes and you want to prevent a crossover, you can use that to pull the string up or down. I tend to plan ahead and don't have the issue where I need to break out that tool. So this is the toolkit that comes with the AlphaGhost 2. So I say we just start the tour from the bottom up, if you will. This is the base assembly of the AlphaGhost 2. One of the things I do like about it is that the transformer is mounted underneath the base on the left, and the base is made out of it's like a cast iron. It's really heavy, really solid. And so the transformer assembly, as you can see on the left, is actually mounted underneath the base, and so you plug in your 110 volt extension. Although I do believe that the unit is dual voltage, you'll want to make sure you verify that if you live in a where you have 220 volt input power. So it mounts up underneath, and then there is you'll notice a little blue dot just to the left of the post. That's just there's a light on the transformer, so it will shine up through that blue dot to indicate that you have power running to the unit. So here we are again in front of the stringing machine. And one of the nice things about the AlphaGhost 2, it can either be used on a tabletop, or it can be used on the pedestal mount. So you'll notice the table, the feet that would sit on top of a table or a tool chest. If you were traveling with the unit, you can operate it that way, or it can be mounted to the post. There's an adjustment. Here you pull out the piece on the left, and you can adjust the unit up and down. That is a two-person operation. I learned that the hard way. You will want someone to be holding onto the stringing machine while you pull the pin out and make the adjustment, and pull the pin back in and tighten down the knob on the left. So two different configurations for the machine, tabletop or pedestal. I should note that because the transformer is mounted in the base, the power coming out does thread up through the pedestal up into the machine and connects. There's two connections that go to the tension head assembly. So if you did want to take it on the road and use it in a tabletop configuration, you do have to pull that cable through the the pedestal assembly out the bottom, undo the transformer underneath and pull everything out, and off you go. So that is a little bit of work you have to do that configuration, but I think it's a small price to pay. Turning the machine on is very simple. On-off switch here on the left side of the tension head assembly. Turn that on, runs through a quick diagnostic, and you're ready to go. So let's walk through the control panel here on the front of the tension head assembly. But first, the tension head here, very quiet as you can see. Flip lever goes back, and then release tension that way with the Diablo. So far, I'm very happy with the performance of the tension head. Your weight adjustment is here. It does for pounds. It only adjusts in whole numbers. You can change pounds to kilograms by pressing and holding the pound and kilogram button, and in the kilogram mode you can go up by half kilogram increments. There are 3 speeds of the pull. High, which is here. There's also low, and there's medium. I keep mine on high all the time. There are pre-stretch option, 0%, 5%, and 10%. There's also not tie-off button. Turn that on. Do your pull. It'll add 10%. And then when you're done, it will automatically go back to off, so that you can continue stringing. I don't believe there is an adjustment to make on that. You can only do 10%. So it's either 10% or no knot, extra knot tension at all. There's a selector here for the type of string, and it will regulate the speed at which the tension head goes back. There's regular, polyester, and Kevlar. Kevlar pulls very slow. Regular pulls medium, and your polyester pulls at a different speed as well. I keep it on regular, and I've strung both poly, multi, synthetic gut. No Kevlar yet, but yeah, I just keep it on regular and high for all of my string jobs. The AlphaGoes 2 comes with an auto braking system. I'll show you how that works later in the video, but in order to enable the brake, there's no lever like you see in some stringing machines to lock the turntable. You press the button once, it locks the turntable, press it again, and it will turn off. The auto brake function is when you pull tension on the string, it will lock the turntable into place. You can disable that function by pressing and holding the brake, and now this will, when you go to tension the string, it will not lock the turntable. It's also worth noting that tool storage is at a premium with this machine. There's a tool bin right here, and they also have this sort of rubber piece that it just lays on the top here that I normally keep my cutters and my awl in there, and then down in this is just a rubber insert that goes in here to keep my starting clamp and other tools in there. But tool storage is at a premium here, so if you have a work surface or a bench, you may be using that more than that may be an adjustment you have to make to your stringing process. So this is the 360-degree turntable. I guess the business end of the stringing of the AlphaGoes 2 stringing machine. I'll mount a Racquet in here a little later, but right now let me just kind of walk through. It is a 6-point mounting system. two knobs, two for the billiards, and then the larger knobs here for the 4-point, the side mounts to get the racket mounted. The clamps run on straight bases. These are really smooth clamps, and I'll show you how they operate. I'll get a racket mounted in here and get some strings, and they do have gravity release on the clamp, so when the clamp drops down, it will automatically release the base. This is a 5-tooth clamp, and I'll give let's just do a close-up of that in a second. There's also some additional storage space here for some tools if you want. I keep it pretty clean down in here and just have all my tools on the other side or on my workbench. If there is one thing to note that one critique of the unit, and I don't have many, and I think if you go to the Tennis Warehouse stringing machine forum and look up AlphaGhost 2, on one of the threads someone talks about protective pads on the unit that occasionally come flying off, and this is what that person is talking about. These are just rubber pads that sit. They just sit really. There's a couple of dots on here that just sort of sit on these plastic pieces right here, and they're labeled which end. So this is the head of the racket, and this is the throat. Not that I think it makes a difference which direction you put it in, but I obey the signs, if you will. But these just sit in here like this. And what I've found after I've strung a couple dozen rackets on here is if you're pulling your mains through and you're pulling, sometimes your main will loop around this plastic piece and flip it off, and it will go flying onto the floor. But the good part is it does provide some degree of protection for the racket when you're going through the mounting process. I also like that the arms here have that. This is like a rubber material. The arms here have that same rubber material. I've strung on both the Wilson Bayardo Babolat Star 5. And their arms are solid. They're solid metal, I guess, and the Bayardo one being sort of the chromed material. This is really nice that that's got this sort of rubber surface to protect the racket during the mounting process. Here are the clamps for the AlphaGhost 2. They are a 5-tooth. They are diamond dusted. They are really a solid clamp. Very, very solid. This is a gravity release base, so that when you go up and you clamp your string and you lock in the base, when you go to unclamp and drop the clamp, it will undo the base. Now, there's a lot of controversy on whether that's a best practice or not. I'll say that I don't regularly use that function. If you are one who prefers to release the base before the clamp on the string, all you do is push down here, release here, and you're off to the races. That's the way that I prefer to release my clamps. And also I've noticed, and this is not unique to this machine, I've noticed it on the Bayardo as well, is that this gravity release function, it doesn't always work. Sometimes when you release the clamp will get, especially if you're doing crosses, right? The clamp will get stuck between two strings, or it won't fall away from, sometimes it won't fall away from the string. So what you get is it kind of having a soft landing like this. Well, there it goes. But sometimes it gets a soft landing, and then you have to manually undo it anyway. So it's really up to the stringer how they want to release a clamp, whether they want to take advantage of the gravity release or do the manual, release the base first and then the clamp and then move on. One thing I will note on this clamp, on this lever, is if you are not used to alpha clamps, you really have to be careful with this space right here. It's happened to me already a couple times, and I'll try to show it, but if you're trying to adjust the clamps for the string diameter, say you're going from 16 to 17 gauge, and you're trying to adjust the clamps. Sometimes I'll just grab the clamp like this, and when I flip the clamp up to release it, you can actually pinch yourself in that little gap right there. So that's just a minor thing to note. The adjustment for the clamp is right here. And one thing I've noticed, and this is a new machine, is that this is really, it is not very easy to turn. So I think maybe that might loosen up over time. But having said that, I've not had to adjust these clamps very much. I mean, it's almost like the setting for 16 and 17 gauge string are almost the same on this with these clamps. I've had to make just very, very, very little adjustment on these. So those are the clamps. There you go. Mounting a racket in the Alpha Ghost 2-string machine is a simple process. You install the racket, and there is these pads have a direction that the racket's supposed to be mounted in. I have not tried to mount one the other way, maybe I'll try that one day and see if there's any difference. And I do want to note that the pedestal adjustments on this are below. There's a couple of knobs. There's a knob here and a knob here. You can adjust the pedestals inward and outward. I think I have them adjusted. I think about the midway point. And every racket I've done, oversized, mid-size rackets, they've all fit in here just fine. So I've not made any adjustments to that since I set the machine up. But anyway, it's very simple. The outer knob adjusts the two top supports. This outer knob adjusts these two, and then the billiards with the small knob, I just adjust those to when they touch. It is very important that you not over tighten these supports. These are just finger tight in here. If you do over tighten them, you'll find that when you go to remove the racket, you will have a very difficult time getting these mounts to release. I've started the mains on this Babylon Pure Drive, and I'll run a couple of several mains on here just to give you a sense for the quiet the Alpha Ghost 2 is, and a sense for how the clamps work. As you can see, this is a 360-degree turntable, which is nice. If you've strung on a Gamma machine that maybe you upgraded with a Wise 2086 tension head, and you have to use that adapter, it takes away the 360-degree function. You'll notice, you'll know what I mean, that not having a function is certainly miss it. I'll see if on this one, if I can show you the gravity release and how that works with this clamp. And as you can tell, what I was talking about earlier, that was a bit of soft landing, you know, I need to go in here and manually undo it anyway. So, yeah, that was a failed attempt at the gravity release. As I come around the throat of the racket, I'll show you the auto locking, how that works. It's actually been doing it, but it's maybe not as easy to discern when you're just doing the middle mains. But let me give you a look here. So I'm going to go ahead and put tension on this string, and right now I'm at 57 pounds. And you'll notice when I do that the table now is locked in as the tension head was pulling back. And there you go, there's the gravity release right there. I never used that function before, but I can say that I'm a real fan of it. I think it really does seem to make for a really sturdy, a very kind of maintains to perhaps give you a higher DT. I have not. One thing I haven't done is tried to do an experiment of stringing a racket with the auto lock brake, the auto brake on, and then doing one with it off and comparing the DT of the two. Maybe I'll try that one day and I'll report back to you with those results. And here we go with the auto lock function again. As you can see, it's locked in place. And we'll continue on. You may have caught this earlier while I was demonstrating the tension head, but there are two ways to activate tension on the Alpha Ghost 2. The first is with this lever in the back. So you can go ahead and you can insert your string, pull, and then you can just press this lever back, and that will initiate tension. But there's also an alternative way where when you pull the string in and you loop around, you can actually pull the jaws forward, and that will activate tension as well. And you can set your clamps and then come back and move on from there. So hopefully this comes out. I do want to give a little bit close-up of the clamp and give you a demonstration of the drawback that you're going to get with these clamps. Now these, I mean, again, this is a very robust mounting system, and these clamps are very robust. You still will get a little bit of drawback on these clamps, as you'll see here in a minute. But I think that's true for nearly all models of professional stringing machines. But let me just go ahead and show you here. I'm on I think the 12th cross. I'm stringing at 57 pounds reference tension. So I'll go ahead and I'll tension. I'm gonna go ahead and clamp off. And if you watch right here, you'll notice a little bit of drawback. Now, I may have to reset the camera here, but I will show you in a second here, on the next pull on this string, how we will make up for that drawback. Okay, so this is the clamp that I've just clamped off on the 12th cross. I've go ahead and pre-weave the 13th cross. I'm going to go ahead and tension that at 57 pounds now, and you will see where the drawback that we had before, we will make that up now on this pull. There you go. I did want to show you the knot feature on this stringing machine. For most electronic constant pull stringing machines, the knot feature is a pretty standard feature. It's been around for years, but for those who have used exclusively a crank machine or a drop weight machine, you may not be familiar with this function, but it's pretty neat. It adds some additional reference tension on that final string to make up for any slack that you have on the outside of the frame or while you're in the process of tying your tie-off knot. So for the Alpha Ghost 2, it adds 10%. Now, there's a lot of, there's a lot of different opinions on how much additional reference tension you should put on your knots. Indeed, there's even an argument on whether you should increase knot tension at all. But be that as it may, you'll hear or you'll read about stringers adding anywhere from 5 to up to 20% additional weight or additional reference tension on their tie-off knots. But for the Alpha Ghost 2, it's set at 10%. I simply press the knot button. It adds the 10% of weight. I pull tension. I clamp off, and as you can see, the machine goes back to my set reference tension. This is an important feature because, for example, if you were doing a one-piece string job and you were tying off your short side, and you wanted to add the 10% knot, the extra tension, you tie off. If you had forgotten that you had added 10% and you began to run your crosses with the long side, you would be doing it at a higher tension than what the customer has wanted. So this will only pull the knot tension once. Once it does the pull, it will reset back to where you had set the reference tension for the entire racket. I mentioned earlier that the turntable does have a manual braking system on it. It does not have unlike most that have like a lever or something underneath to lock the turntable in place. This one here, you just press the brake button and it electronically locks the turntable in place. Some use this feature to do their tie-off knots. I've found that with this machine, because the turntable is round, I'm going to take that off. I can actually kind of rest it up against my hip to tie my tie-off knot. Another feature I'd like to note on the display here is you're able to pull up the number of pull counts you've had on the machine, and this is could be important later down the road. Say if you want to sell the machine, it's always a good data point to have to say here's the number of pulls I've had on the machine. So to access that, you're going to press the knot button and hold for 5 seconds. The way the display works is C means count, and there are 7 digits that it goes up to, which is essentially 1,000,000 pulls. I don't know if I'll ever get up to that amount, but this would be the first digit, the millions digit. And then if you press down, here are the next 3 digits. So this is the 100,000s, 10,000 and 1,000. 639 pulls is what I'm on right now. And everybody say hello to Seabury. So I'll just do a little bit of cleanup here, fix a couple things that I mentioned earlier, and also talk a little bit about the calibration. So the manual comes with the calibration instructions. You do have to remove these 4 Allens, pull the panel up. I think I might have called this a Phillips earlier, but the machine does come with actually a jeweler's standard flathead jeweler's screwdriver to adjust a potentiometer that's underneath here. There's a little bit of a debate on what type of calibration tool you should use. The one on the top here is a spring loaded tension calibrator. The second one is a digital one, which really it just amounts to like a luggage scale. There's an argument to be made that because of the constant pull, the digital meter, you won't get a very accurate reading because, or you'll drive yourself crazy trying to adjust because as you're trying to adjust, that the tension head is going to continue to try to pull to maintain the reference tension. So it's much easier to use and much more accurate to use the spring calibrator. You just have to make that decision on your own. Kind of listen or read up on both sides of that argument and make your decision on that. Also, I had mentioned earlier a T-handle Allen that comes to adjust the clamps, and there's a little plastic piece here. You probably can't see it too well, but you would pop this plastic piece off, and that will adjust basically the tension of and the hold of the clamp base. And I believe earlier on the height adjustment, I might have said you pull out on the left. You actually pull out on the right. Lift the machine to the appropriate height. It'll snap back into place, and then you can tighten the knob on the other side. Again, that is definitely a two-person operation to adjust the height. And for the $3,000 price tag, you do get a cover for the machine that says stringing machine. Well, okay, that concludes the walkthrough of the Alpha Ghost 2 stringing machine. Like I said, I've strung about a couple dozen rackets on it, and I've been very happy with the performance. I actually brought it to the club where I string rackets at, and for an open house that they had, and got a lot of attention. People, I think customers like to kind of touch and feel the technology that's out there that helps them perform on the court. So not only is it a very effective machine, but it also is a good marketing piece for those those small business professional stringers. I'll say that this is where I look at maybe the Bayardo and other higher end stringing machines as sort of the Mercedes or BMW. I kind of look at the Alpha Ghost 2 as sort of the Toyota, maybe even the Chevy. It is a workhorse machine. There are no really over the top bells and whistles. It doesn't adjust or tilt back and forth like the Bayardo does, but it certainly takes care of. It certainly does what it was designed to do. One final note: if you're currently using a machine, maybe an upgraded machine, so I had a Gamma XST crank machine that I had upgraded with the Wise 2086. If you're moving from that level of machine to this, I'll say that the turntable, the bass, and the clamps are so much more robust on this level of machine that I've found that the dynamic tension on rackets, I've seen about an increase of 2 DT on the rackets that I've strung up on for return clients. So it is worth mentioning to your clients that you're stringing on a new machine, and that their racket, that if it feels a little tighter, you can always make adjustments in the future, but or you can make that adjustment up front. Maybe drop a couple pounds, 1 or 2 pounds reference tension for your repeat customers. But I chose to just stay at the same reference tension and just advise them that the stringing machine that I'm using now strings a lot tighter than the machine that I used in the past. So I think I covered just about everything. However, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below, and I will do what I can to provide a response.